I'm only one drink away from the devil. I'm only one call away from home.
Welcome back to the Cutty and Govy Show, formerly known as Unbandaged. We've gone to the Cutty and Govy Show because we're on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, Apple, YouTube, and TikTok. So now we just have one name, the Cutty and Govy Show. Today we have a very distinguished guest, Dr. Karen Corcoran, a famous psychologist that does wellness and wants to discuss with us this whole gigantic issue about the fact that people are fighting not to go back to work. The work from home thing has been such a big thing over COVID. And now even companies like Zoom that exist on work from home are now forcing all their employees back to work 5 days a week. It's kind of crazy. But before we get into that, we just wanted to talk about the Republican debate the other day on TV where we had the 8 Republican candidates. Ex-Donald Trump was not there. I don't know, Govy, what do you think of him not showing up? Was that a good move? Or?
I think he won the debate. I think he won the debate by not showing up. All the other people, DeSantis didn't really do anything, but he held his own. He didn't make a mistake. Christie came across as a big bully.
Right.
Vivek basically was taking on
everybody.
Haley did okay. Scott. It's the next one is the big one. The mayor of Miami, he dropped out already.
I saw that.
So and then this hurricane that hit Florida today was great news for a good thing for DeSantis.
He's going to be all over TV.
He looked like a hero. So,
but I was thinking of a great, now that there's a writer's strike and we're looking for extra income, maybe we could come up with a Saturday Night Live skit of this Republican national debate, like Chris Christie behind the podium eating a hoagie, with it falling on the ground. Or, even that Mike Pence, he went over 2 minutes over every time he spoke. I think you should put an electric buzzer on him. So when, he goes over, they buzz the guy.
Right. They shock him. He would be shocked the whole time. I mean, it's I think that what's crazy, you can do it because it would really be funny. I mean, they lost control. The two...
Yeah, Brett Baer was
and
terrible.
Martha McCallum, they had to turn around and tell the audience, a Republican audience, to keep quiet, not to boo. They lost control of the entire...
It was
thing.
Unbelievable. But I think what would be really fun, that Vivek Ramaswamy, however you say his name, they should make everybody say his name. That's
right.
how they should start out. See who pronounces it right. But beyond that, his white teeth were did you see his white teeth?
I did.
I mean, that was they should have a guy on Saturday Night Live with those white teeth like that.
But he had some great comebacks that went over the head of a lot of the listeners. For one, when Christie attacked him and kind of compared him to Barack Obama, he answered, "Give me a hug." And that hug represented, if you remember, when Sandy Hook had that hurricane.
Right.
Christie went up and gave Barack Obama this huge hug.
Huge hug coming off the plane.
After he
remember that.
So that was to say, come on, give me a hug. So that was one. And then when Nikki Haley attacked him, that he didn't know what he was going on with the Ukraine war, he basically said, well, your husband and you were on the board of Raytheon.
I saw that.
Which is
she denied it.
Yeah, but her husband is. And it's sort of like Curry saying, I don't have a private plane, but my wife does.
Right.
So, people don't know what Raytheon is. They don't know that's a Ukraine war is great news,
but
great business.
You could really be laughing in stitches. You could make such a great Saturday Night Live skit. All our 87,000 listeners should send a comment in and let us know ideas for a Saturday Night Live skit for that Republican today. That Chris Christie is great. Did you see him leaning on the podium? Can you imagine if they had the podium collapse when he's leaning on it and then it falls to the ground?
They could. It's crazy. I really believed he was on Ozempic if he was going to run.
Right.
But he's not.
Right. Right.
He's not.
And you see his shoes. He wears like these giant moonwalking shoes. I guess that's to support himself. I don't know.
It's crazy. But it's funny. You said that if they had a skit, the problem with Saturday Night Live ever doing a skit right now, look at these late night comedians that have these late night talk shows. They have a gift right now in Joe Biden that they could literally have you laughing every night.
Right.
And for some reason, they won't pull the trigger. It's like, they just won't do it.
Because it's half of America. I mean, they piss off half the people.
They make half of them laugh. Right now,
That's true.
Right now they're not making anybody laugh. This Greg Gutfeld is sitting there like laughing at them. So
especially when you go get your tank full of gas, nobody's laughing.
Right.
Anyway, let's go over to the steam doctor over here and let's discuss. Karen, why don't you tell us a little about the area of stuff that you're working on that's such a big pandemic in America today, and it's in the news every day, and it's gigantic, workplace wellness and what's going on with people.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
So what's going on?
Govy,
Yes, of course. Did I leave you out? Oh, my goodness. I don't, Cutty and Govy. You go together.
Right.
So let's talk about that. What's going on with workplace wellness and working from home? Right now, people don't want to go back to work. And employers are trying to solicit people to come to work, to the point that if you look at ads for employees, you're going to find where there's a special category now that says must be present or physical presence required.
Is that in a category of under, let's say, engineers? They have an engineer category, then a you have to be present category, or?
It's more like with each advertisement for a position, it'll say
job description,
physical presence required, as if I ever questioned that. You're applying for a job, so this is
painter,
a new culture.
physical presence. I want to be a house painter. Physical presence required.
It's a new world. It's a new world out there that you're dealing with.
No kidding. Working out, there was a physical trainer, and the qualification was must be physically present. And to that end, I actually know a physical trainer who is training people through Zoom, virtually training. So what happens when we're looking for someone to clean? Are we going to get virtual cleaners?
Right.
How far is this going to go? So it's become somewhat of a joke, but somewhat of a serious matter.
So when you treat people for this, let's say I work 3 days in the office and 2 at home, and now I work for Zoom, and Zoom's saying I have to come in 5 days a week instead of 3. I mean, am I anxiety ridden? I can't sleep. I'm drinking too much. What are the issues that these people are suffering from that?
Oh, the issues are a multitude. You can imagine if you're conditioned to be home and you're in the comfort of your home working. Imagine it's 9 a.m. You rolled out of bed and opened up your laptop. Is there anything else to expect?
Yeah.
You don't have to get dressed. You don't have to present in any particular manner. You can have wine for lunch and lunch for breakfast, and at 9 a.m., cheers to you. And no one is the wiser. So now we're going to ask these people to change these patterns they've created and start functioning as we once functioned, with human resources, dress codes, appropriateness, behaviors that are accustomed to the workplace.
So I bet you there's a lot of people today, a lot of young people today, that were probably diagnosed with, I'm not going to say like Asperger's or stuff, but there's a lot that are socially, especially if they haven't been in school for a couple of years, so they don't feel confident, in a social situation. Yeah. And they actually feel better in their house.
That's a really good point.
In their house. So now we created them, so to go out there and to talk to your fellow workers is a social skill. So I think our social skills that they just feel comfortable not socializing, doing it at home, and now you're telling them to go back to work, and they're scared. They're scared.
And also economically, you're wearing a beautiful outfit, but if you're working from home, all you need is like a pair of Lululemon shorts, and then if you do a Zoom call, you put a nice shirt on, but you don't have to get dry cleaning. You don't have to buy gorgeous clothes. You don't have to buy the shoes.
But I think that you could have people that, let's say you're successful at sales, and you're selling something, and you're 22 years old. but the person you're selling are generally in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. You think you got this good thing because he doesn't even know what you look like. And then you start getting nervous. Now you have to go back into a place. And now people get to see you. And maybe they think you're a 40 or 50-year-old person, and instead you're really not. And now you got anxiety on, like, you know, you were doing so well behind the camera. Now you're, like, behind the showcase.
Well, Govy, you're correct in that. We've created workplace anxiety. We've created home anxiety and fear and phobias that we didn't have before. So now we have to shift. How do we present to the world in person versus how do we present on a Zoom, which is half-dressed, briefly, and not really having to conform to workplace rules and regulations and human resources and expectations. So we're spot on and then we're off. And that kind of condition, I think we're going to see, is problematic for the future of employers trying to get people to come back to work.
Well,
So do you, let me, I don't mean to interrupt. Do you play both sides of this? In other words, do you treat people that are going, that are required to go back to work? And do you also give recommendation to business owners of how to deal with this issue? Because I know a lot of my friends that own large businesses, they're desperate for employees, and they're just trying not to piss people off, but they want the people back at work. So they're trying to come up with some sort of hybrid situation to keep their employee base, but keep them happy, but get them back in the office. Like Goldman Sachs is pissing everybody off, and they're,
Right.
you know, nobody, you know, they're making them come back to work every day.
Well, there's accountability. I think what we learned is through the pandemic, we lost accountability. And now employers want accountability. They're paying for services. It's not as if your salary was reduced because you're working from home. So now the employers are still paying for benefits. They're still paying for salaries, and they want that accountability. So in response to what you're saying, people are hesitant to go back to work, and employers are upset and facing difficulties getting people to come back to work. So it's a negotiation, where before there was never a negotiation. You applied for a job, you had a salary, you had expectations, and if you didn't like the work conditions, you found another place of employment. But the landscape's changed.
well, do you also coach the people that, let's say you have a company and working from home is okay? Do you teach them how to be on a Zoom call? Like, there is a professionalism.
Is it really?
Well, let me
Yes,
ask Jeffrey Toobin. Do you think he
absolutely.
should
Yeah,
be?
when
Do you
you-
think Jeffrey Toobin
yeah,
should have had like a
you
do and
know,
don't? Like, Jeffrey Toobin, do not do that.
Do
That's
not masturbate on your Zoom call,
Right.
Jeffrey
Oh, we had a
Toobin.
situation recently with a lawyer. So the lawyer looked great from the waist up, and he forgot that he was on Zoom and stood up, and he was in boxers. So this is before
my
the
God.
court.
In
So
front of
you
a judge?
Yes, this is. Yes.
Oh, my
So
God.
there, a cat ran across a table, sat in front of the camera. There's all kinds of situations.
I can see
that
it
occur.
because I think if you're going to do a Zoom,
Interesting.
you can't just sit in front of a computer and thinking, okay, because you forget that people are still watching you. There is some rules to, like,
Etiquette. There is work from home etiquette. And there's also now returning to work etiquette. So that's that shift, as you were saying. And the workplace wellness program right now that people are promoting is all about training people to come back to work, and employers preparing for how people communicate. People have lost the ability to communicate and function emotionally. They get angry, they want what they want right away, and they're not in that workplace.
well, look how
atmosphere.
hard it is. You go away, there's COVID, you're sitting at home, you come back to work, and all of a sudden you say, this is Sally. And then Sally will say to you, I go by she and there. And you would be like, wow, I missed 2 years. What did I miss?
How do you identify?
Like these
It's
pronouns.
the subject today.
Like that's like that was only 2 years, and now you don't know how to.
Right.
So someone has to teach, and I guarantee you, there's
Oh, yeah.
companies that tell you that you have to treat
And-
them with he, she.
Well, that's a big
this,
push
that.
these
when
days.
you
Yes.
have people working from home, the sexual harassment thing has to go way down. I mean, I don't know whether you get a reduction in your sexual harassment insurance, but you don't have workplace sexual harassment or intercompany relationships or things like that.
And groups are working from home as well. What if you're working from home with your spouse? So all of the sexual harassment comes into place, and the sexuality and experiences that occur throughout the day that are.
How do you know what you are? It's like sexual harassment. So all of a sudden you're talking to a guy, but all of a sudden he tells you, I was a guy last week, but I'm not a guy this week. Could that be sexual harassment?
It could be. There's a lot that's changed since we were in the workplace full time.
Did you see that story yesterday with the sorority with that girl?
I can't believe they lost.
Yeah, I can't. The girl. Yeah. It was. It was. Did you see this? It was an unbelievable story. I mean, this woman, this sorority, these gals sign up for a sorority, and there's a guy in it.
Right.
What girl?
That's now that identifies as a girl, but she
doesn't shave or something.
But she's also spying on them. You know, like she's like watching them. You know, and
that's like a track team that has a male and a female track team. I mean, how can you win? And how is that?
Because you could solve the whole problem if everybody would get together, one school in each school district, and you said, listen, we're going to take 6 boys, and we're going to have you identify as a girl, and you're going to go out for the girls' basketball team. And when they win the state title in every single district out there, then it would bring awareness that it's unfair.
Well, these are touchy subjects, but it just goes to show that returning to the workplace has changed. And I think that as a culture, we're going to have to change. There's a lot of things going on, and we need to be prepared for it. But employers want people back in the workplace, obviously.
What's your responsibility? Like, if someone came to you and they wanted, how do you attack a situation? Like, it's so confusing. It's so confusing.
I don't attack it, first of all. I negotiate and work with it. Right. I find a middle ground, but I help to train the people who are coming back, the employees, and then I work with the employers to provide education for the company at large on how to create positive environments, how to communicate, how to be respectful, and how to get work products.
Because they've lost all that etiquette.
But isn't
they
everybody...
didn't have to. They were getting up wearing their pajamas and, rolling out of bed, opening up a laptop, which a lot of people still do. And they're playing solitaire while they're on a Zoom call. You don't know what's going on.
But everything's like a snowflake. Everything's different. So you can't
Nothing
even go.
Is what it is.
So you can't go by a list and say, okay, she falls under this category, this category. Let me attack it this way. Because every situation you come across is an individual situation. It could be a one-off, and you have.
It can. Yes, human resources, I don't even know where it exists these days. Human resources, what are we talking about? People are working from home. It's remote employment. So when you talk about gender identity, which is what you're referring to, how do you work that into the workplace? And when people return, how do you address it? So I think that you've got some good points. It's an interesting time. There's a lot of humor in it, but there's a lot of seriousness as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to, draw a line in the sand and lay people off and let them realize what it is not to get a paycheck, and then they're going to get religion and come back to work. I know it's not popular with our 87,000 listeners. Maybe half of them are working from home, but realistically, what are the conditions? They're anxiety ridden. What are the conditions when they are forced to go back to work 5 days a week? Is their hair falling out? Do they lose their appetite? Do they have erectile dysfunction? What are the issues that come up?
Well, there's a lot of issues that come up in any time there's a shift. So what you're talking about is anxiety, depression, fear, phobias. And a lot of those conditions are present anytime we change our expectations in any environment. At first, when COVID put people at home, there was all those conditions. And then people were kind of like, okay, I got this. I figured it out. I'm working from home. I know how to communicate. I finally have everything set up. Because there was a lot of people who didn't even know how to use Zoom or Skype. So now they've gotten in their pattern. They take a break. They go out for a jog, or they have their lunch, or they eat what they want. They dress how they want. And they really don't have a set of norms to adhere to in a workplace environment. Now we've just said, okay, we're going to shake it up again, and we want you all to come back to work. So now all those conditions that were created when we put everybody at home are now resurfacing as we're asking them to come to work. So it's an interesting time.
It is. So I have a question for you. Okay. If you belong to a union, the union does all your battling for you. So the United Auto Workers, for instance, they now want to work 32 hours a week. Correct. They want to be paid for 40 hours a week, and they want a 40% raise. Now,
that's reasonable.
But let's say you work for a company.
That's a union.
But let's say you work for a company that's non-union, and you're okay with it. Now, do you find it if you find out you're in a law firm or you're in another company that It's not union. And you see that your competitor company, that they let their workers work 32 hours a week, and you're working, longer. Your guy's making you work 48 hours a week. Do you sit there and say, hey, this company is doing this, why can't we? Are you comparing? Like, what happens, like you say, you have to go back to work. Some companies are saying you have to come back, Goldman Sachs, 3 days a week. Now his competitor, say JP Morgan, says, we want you 5 days a week. Like, where do you?
Well, I think that, as usual, you would choose the work environment that best suits you. So right now we have the four-day work week is a big push. Everybody wants to work Monday through Thursday. They want to get paid as if they're there on Friday.
And you have Friday off, or you work from home on Friday?
Well, now that's a negotiation.
Oh.
Some people are working longer hours Monday through Thursday with Friday off. Some people are working normal hours but Friday from home. So that's what I was referring to earlier. Everything is a negotiation now, which never was on the table when you were employed.
Where do you see it leaning?
Wow.
Like 32 hours? Is it working 4 days a week and getting paid for 5? Is that where it's going?
I think it depends on the profession. School teachers have to adhere to a certain expectation. I think in finance and when you are making financial recommendations as stockbrokers, there might be a little more flexibility. Depending on your profession, you'll be able to massage your schedule as long as your employer is on board. But it does create issues with liability. Is the employee actually an employee? What happens if someone falls and gets hurt at home, but they're on the clock? Is this a workers' comp situation?
Yeah,
what if they were walking to their car to get in their car to go
don't they have insurance? They have to have homeowner. They have to have their own insurance.
But does the homeowner's insurance supersede workers' comp because technically they're working on the job? There's all kinds of things that are going on. It's
tricky.
It's a new world.
But for me, I work from home, and I very much miss going to an office. I mean, I'm anxiety-ridden from being in the house all day as opposed to, like, interacting with people at an office. So I have the reverse of, what's going on in the world. I like the interaction of an office.
How does sick days work if you're working at home and you get COVID?
Yeah.
Does that mean, do you get off?
There you go.
Can I say, hey, like you feel okay, but you're at home. You're not allowed to be with people, but you're at home anyway. Does that count as a sick day, or it doesn't really stop you from doing your Zoom call?
That's a good question. Benefits. What about vacation? I mean, are you on a vacation anyway? And you shorten your hours, you work as you please.
Well, let's ask Joe Biden.
Or can you do your work?
There you go.
Let's ask Joe Biden. He's just had 3 months off.
Yeah.
See how he feels. But how do you? So, the $1 million question is: how do you treat somebody? What do you do? What do you do to make them give them the incentive to go back to work and for them to do a good job at work?
I think every company is an individual situation. So you have to look at your company, your expectations, your needs for both the company and the employees, and every person is treated differently. And it's an individualized approach. When I work with people, it's always individualized.
But I think, so water seeks its point of least resistance. So I think that people, generally most of America, spend what they make. So now I'm accustomed to not buying a fancy suit, and I'm not spending money on dry cleaning. I have more money. So maybe that's why all these restaurants are busy. Everybody's using that extra money to go to a restaurant. I wonder what happens now. Do they go to the boss, Govy, and say, look, now you're making me go back to work. I gained 20 pounds. I have COVID-20. And I need new clothes because my clothes don't fit, and I need this, and I need a new car, and gas is going to cost me this and that. I mean, there's got to be a residual inflation.
But that's where the anxiety also comes in. Maybe that's why they don't want to come back to work, because they gained 20 pounds and they're like, what happened to you?
Well, also, their salaries are not reflecting the change in the cost of, as you said, gas and expenses. So that's another issue to address.
How about different parts of the country? Like if you're dealing with someone from South Dakota has to have different issues than the person in New York that's sitting at home. I mean, the person in South Dakota, his working at home is different than the person working in New York City.
I agree. I think that each state, each working condition, the climate changes everything. So I think as a culture, we need to look at it. We need to figure out what are we doing. because when our ads for employment start indicating work presence required, that's telling us that, listen, there's an issue because people don't want to come back to work. So you have to identify that this position requires for you to come to work or need not apply.
Karen needs to hire more people.
Yeah.
I think you need to hire a lot more
this is
people.
this is a
workplace
booming field.
therapists.
Yeah.
No, I'm reading
Really?
I'm reading this week about this Ukrainian guy that started this OnlyFans company, where he's making $1.3 million a day. And these, like Cardi B, I don't even know who the hell Cardi B is. She's a rapper or what is she? I mean,
I think she was married to a Kardashian.
She's a rapper.
Was she married to a Kardashian?
Well, I don't really know her history.
She makes on this fans only on this OnlyFans page.
Yep.
She's making $9 million a month. Now I can figure this out in my head. That's like over $100 million a year.
The creator makes $1 million a day.
I don't want to be the creator. I just want to be Cardi B making $9 million a month, $100 million a year. What is she doing on this fans only page that people are paying? And this is a work from home job. That's why I bring it up.
She looks sexy. She looks fine.
So why does
she
Tyga?
puts
Who's
herself
Tyga?
out there?
You know who Tyga is?
Right?
Tyga. He's making $7.7
We have our
million.
podcast. Why don't you help me out a little bit and do
I'll
something?
take my clothes off right here. I don't
need a
need
music
I don't need
producer.
$9 million a month.
Yeah, I need a little
Cutty
help
wants
here.
to
What do
hit
you
it
want
there.
me to do for you?
Help me out. Do something.
You got to start singing. You have to have some talent. We need to dress you up and make you
Who
look
the hell is Tyga?
fine, sexy.
I never even heard of Tyga. $7.7 million per month. I mean, it's fans on. But I don't.
It's
know.
easier for girls.
Yeah,
It's easier
but
for girls.
but I mean,
I don't know. I don't think these days it's gender specific. I think the guys like Tyga and other people are making
There's
sick
too many.
money.
There's too many sick men out there that like they're sick. I mean, there's a person that says I sell my used shoes. There's a person out there that wants to.
But what does
smell
Cardi?
my
What
shoes.
does Cardi B do for $9 million a month? Does she masturbate in front
She
of the
looks
camera?
good. That's what she does. She sings.
She
She's a
sings.
talent. She performs. She's got what people want.
So this is a new form of entertainment. Rather than doing live shows or doing a casino, you're doing fans only.
That
Or-
could be.
How do you say it? Is it only fans or fans only? I don't even know.
Only fans, I think.
Only fans.
Right.
He lives in London or England. now.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he lives in London. He's a Ukrainian guy. I would say his name, but I can't pronounce it. It's like
Why doesn't
Camel.
he give some money back to Ukraine?
Right. He should. No, he could support the whole war, right? But it's just another crazy story about work from home. And when I was in New York City this summer, everything. That's what's so great about America. Everything adapts. The retail business, the retail store is dying. You have all these stores going out of business, and I'm going through Manhattan, and I'm expecting to see all these vacant retail stores, but you don't, because they're replaced with pot stores. Marijuana
That is
is
true.
legal in New York. I mean, you can just walk into a store
The
and
US
buy
Open,
it.
they smell it. The players are smelling it. Like,
You can walk up to a bus and buy a joint right
Yeah.
there in the city. Amazing.
So now, if they didn't have 10,000 pot stores in downtown Manhattan or wherever the hell they are all over New York, it would be like retail would be just decimated. Now there's another person, and evidently it's very profitable. So there's people to pay rent to the landlords, and now the retail's
people that listen. You got kids today that if you said go into a men's store and have a tailor take your measurements, you see a kid today. He takes his iPhone, he goes like this on that M tailoring. He takes his phone. Next thing you know,
He scans his size and he sends it off, and his
So
suits
what
are
happens
made.
to the Italian little tailor that talks with pins in his mouth? What
Right.
happens to that guy?
Yeah.
He puts himself on TikTok and finds a way to make some money. He becomes a performer.
But there's this disease called FOMO, fear of missing out, and I'm just wondering if this work from home thing is also people fear of missing out, doing certain things that they, missing their dog or missing their husband or missing their boyfriend.
There's all different variations of FOMO. You could have a person that won't watch Netflix or they won't watch a TV show because they feel that they're missing out on the world. So they're locked into CNN or something or a newscast because if they put on Netflix, they're away from the world. They have to step away.
Then there's people who are so comfortable that going back to work is not as desirable as it once was. So I think in about 3 to 5 years, we'll start seeing
That long.
I think so. It takes time.
to get the data.
Yeah, to get the data and really to see what's going on. Remember, a lot of relationships shifted where husband and wife or significant others are home, and now they're dealing with each other.
That they have to see each other.
They have to see each other. The relationship was great until they had to see each
You're
other
right,
all the
right.
time.
What are you talking about? You know everything I did that day. You know?
Right, you
I'm
can't
good for
escape.
6 hours a week.
Right.
You know, 80 hours
I'm
a
like,
week
geez,
doesn't
they
work.
know what you did. So it's hard. What do you talk about at the dinner table when she knows everything you did?
Yeah, you're home all day. You've discussed everything under the sun.
How do you feel though about your expertise on the difference of the generations? So tell me a 70-year-old, let's say a 65, 55, 45, the worker. Where do you see a difference of a guy that's going to work that you're dealing with that's 55 and a 25-year-old today, as far as how they do business, how they?
Well, I think the younger generation, the 25-year-olds, are more equipped to work from home. They know the IT.
Sure.
They're
Yeah.
much quicker. They're faster. And they have the ability to kind of be a chameleon. They have the charm and charisma to get out there and shake it up, and then they have the ability to work from home. Whereas your 70-year-old, I'd say anyone from 50, 60, and 70 above, they don't have necessarily, now this is just generally speaking, the skill set that the younger generation has with technology. And so they're more likely comfortable with having a face-to-face, a conversation like this.
I
Right?
agree.
We feel good. We like to see each other.
I'm on the cusp.
Yes.
I tell you what, I feel like I'm on the cusp where there's some things I can do that I can go this way, and there's others that I feel like, wow, the technology, I threw in the towel and I said, you know what, I can't
Like when your printer doesn't work. Do you know how to fix your printer?
get a new printer.
Now we have mobile IT. You just call up the IT or remotely.
What's that number? I
they
need
just fix
that.
your
I need
printer
that
from
number.
another
Yeah.
distance location.
Yeah, so I'm still, like, I can go either way. So I'm thinking if someone's 10 years older than me,
Right.
they're at the, you know.
It could be. It depends, but yes, you're right. They are more likely to want to go back to the workplace before the 25-year-old will, because now you're requiring someone who's younger to fit into the mold that they were not conditioned to fit into.
Right.
So now we're
Yeah.
creating a shift.
I mean,
they're doing fine working remotely. They love it, most of them.
I have a crappy analogy. My youngest this summer had an amazing summer. He did a teen tour. He did some really fun stuff. And by the end of the summer, he couldn't wait to go back to school. I can't believe a kid says to me, Dad, I can't wait to go back to school, because he missed that interaction.
Right.
And you're basically saying, well, that's really not the case for adults. They relish or enjoy that stay-at-home period.
Well, I
No, it
think
depends on which age is what.
Depends on the age, and I think people have
okay.
created their kind of pseudo friendships and social life, meaning people joined networking groups and they got involved with the community. They started running, they're biking in groups. All ages. So whatever your age is, people seem to have found a way to adapt, and they like it. We like our comfort zone. So now we're going to, as I said earlier, shake it up and say, get out of that comfort zone, because we're post-COVID and we're going to shift you in this direction. And I think we're going to see some changes, but I think that will define our workplace now. We are a work environment, a culture of choices and negotiations.
So I read a little bit about this. What's happening in the rest of the world?
I was just going to ask you. We have to be falling behind. We have to be falling behind.
Like what's happening in Japan or
Their work
China?
ethic is just, I think, a lot.
They're going back to work, or they're working from home, or what's going on there?
I think their work ethic has to be better. That they're not making their kids. I think what's China 2 hours a day TikTok. That's it.
Yeah.
Here, 10 hours. Just leave me alone, and your kid can have a TikTok at
Well, I
the dinner
think
table.
I think the restrictions applied to everyone, all cultures, all countries. It was an international shutdown. So I think the human condition is to
Except
now
in the
figure it
state
out.
of Florida, DeSantis didn't shut
DeSantis
it.
said, yes, we are out and about. Open up those
Or
doors.
parents, but my parents were different. Like I can go out to dinner with my brother, and he has some younger kids, and I'm telling you, we're at the dinner table, and they all are on their phones, and like. We almost like we don't care because they're not doing
Yeah,
anything.
it's better.
It's almost better for us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I never would be able to sit there at a dinner table, a family dinner, and like they're just not even a part of the conversation. It doesn't even. They're just in their phones. I mean, my dad would have liked that.
Well, it's like the electronic binky. It's sort of like, here you go, here's an iPad,
Right.
shut up.
It is. It is like a big. It is.
And as they get older, where kids used to read a book,
Right.
Now it's, they're on their phone. But that becomes a parenting issue and how you interact as a family. We come from a culture, we're all from the Northeast. We just
Right.
had a conversation. We're all born in Philly and come from the Northeast. So we have a culture of communicating. It's just not acceptable to be at a dinner table or with a family and not be talking. So we wouldn't behave that way. But our culture today has shifted. So now,
Crazy how it shifted.
it's changed. Way crazy.
I mean, at 10 years old, I was riding my bike with my friend. We would go to the train station, leave our bike at the train station, take a train, then
No,
the
you're not
subway.
even lock it up. You
No,
probably
then
just
take
leaned
a
it against the wall.
take a subway to Veteran Stadium and watch a Phillies game at 10. No cell phone. My parents couldn't get in
find
touch
you.
with me.
Yeah.
And I'm taking a subway, a train, and then riding my bike home, and it was fine. Today, no one would ever.
They would put an Amber Alert out.
Matter of fact,
You're gone. Where are you?
I think the parent could go to jail.
funny.
Could go to
Oh, yeah.
jail for like child,
Yeah.
thing.
But I think it's, if you look at, let's say it's a 4-year COVID thing. I mean, there's a lot of people that are not in the workforce anymore because of 4 years that passed by and they don't have to deal with it. Let's say you were 61 when COVID started and now you're 65. You're probably not going to go back to work. You're going to get Medicare or Social Security or whatever. And, so it's almost like the generation kind of got knocked down a notch because so many people left the workforce just by aging out or early retirements or stuff like that.
I think we lost some of those 60-year-olds. They had salesmanship. So the other day, you went to a car dealership to buy your
was
son a car.
crazy.
So today, you get a car salesman. He used to be up there, and if you said to him, all right, what do you have in stock? And he would say, he would give you the colors, he would give you the price. If you said, I want to put $5,000 down on it, he would say, boom, 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 your monthly payment would be this. What happens when you saw
You get a QR code. Have you been to a car dealership lately?
I
had to
went
put my
one
phone
this
up
week.
to the QR code. I said, well, I have a question. Hello. There's nobody around.
This-
What's going on?
I went
Is this
into-
an
I went-
alternate universe?
I went into the Ford dealership to buy my son a truck. He's turning, he's going to graduate high school. So I went in to buy a truck, and he wants a certain kind of truck. So I go to the Ford dealership where they sell them, and I said, how many do you have? He said, I don't know, let me check. I'm like, why's the guy have to check? I said, how many cars do you sell a month? He said, 12 or 15. I'm like sitting there and I'm saying to myself, doesn't this guy know? Doesn't he get a sheet every morning that says there are 12 of these kind of cars? So he comes back and he says, oh, there's 9 of them or 10 of them. I said, well, what colors do you have? He said, let me check.
Listen, that's not his job
And
to
I'm
know.
like-
But he's there.
I'm like-
They're there 15 hours a day. How
like,
hard is it to know how
can
many
you-
cars?
Like, I'm not a rocket scientist, but if I sold trucks every day, I'd walk on the lot, and I'm assuming they're making it easy on you. The Ford Broncos are over here, the F-150s are here, the Mustangs are there, so you don't have to walk around the lot and search. Boom, you can see where what.
But he's making money in
Guys
spite, in spite of how he doesn't have the talent.
He's wearing a Gucci belt. I said, dude, that's a really nice belt. How many cars do you sell a month? He says, 12 to 15. I said, what do you make? Like 200-300? Oh, no, I make $1,000 a car. I'm like adding in my head, that's $180,000. This guy has no fucking idea of what's on the lot. Every question, he said, let me talk to a manager. It was unbelievable.
Cutty, things have changed. Remember, people are ordering cars online. So this car salesman is not only dealing with you, and you happen to be one of the people that walked up, but he's got people calling in, ordering in.
Right.
There's a lot going on in the car business and in all sales.
But for me, I can make money. I can't make time. My time is so valuable.
True.
And for me to stand there and every 7 minutes for him to go, let me talk to a manager, I'm pissed off. I would have bought that car there that second. If the guy gave me I have a red, I have a black, and I have a green car. I have 3 2-doors and 3 4-doors.
He was horrible because it's actually easier for a salesperson today. I'm in the watch business. I used to have, years ago, someone would come in the store and we'd carry 50 lines. different lines. We have everything. Someone would come in and I would say, what watch are you looking for that they were, interested in? They would say, I don't know what I want. Can you show me? They don't know if it's a strap, it's metal, if it's dress, if it's not. You had to show them like the whole process. Today, someone comes in and they say, I would like a Rolex 22-4 black slate face Roman numeral. Like, there's no sell. It's like, do you have it or you don't? But it's easy enough for me to have to say, let me check to see if I have it. Like,
did technology change that? I mean,
that's the point.
Yes,
Shop from
you're
home,
educated.
work from home. So the people who are home are now shopping from home. They can look up what they want. So when they want to buy it, if they come in, they know what they want. You're not really selling them. You're just providing it. If you're lucky enough to get them in.
You're an order taker.
Yeah.
I'm an order taker. It's like I'm behind the counter of a deli, and they want turkey? Got it. You want corned beef? Got it. So the art of selling, they lost the art of actually selling.
And you lose price. You lose the incentive of price. I mean, because they can go on the internet and see that watch in 5 different places at X different prices.
No, they have it where it's pretty much all the same. But the consumer's educated. I don't care if you're buying a mattress. You go on the line. Do you want a sleeper number 9? Do you want this? Do you want? I mean, they come into the stores and they're like, this is what I need. Like,
Yeah.
Well, think about the flip side of it is that as much as it sounds negative, there is some positive. You have different ways of earning income. You can work from home. You can sell different products. You don't have to travel to buy a car. You don't have to get out in a snowstorm if you're in the Northeast or somewhere where it's cold, to search for a vehicle. There's so many positives that come out of this, and there's so many more
How about
jobs.
searching for a wife? Like,
There you go.
You
Well,
don't have to go to a bar.
mail
You just
order
go
bride.
right here. I mean, like, look how that's changed. Instead of going
I don't know if we want to go there.
you don't have to go to a place.
You don't
like,
have to meet a woman.
You
You
just go like
just
this on your phone and you
shop
start
for
going.
one.
Isn't that what?
Listen, the other day I saw that someone's selling virginity. I mean, how do you sell virginity?
Wow.
It's a
What's the
product now.
price of
It's
that?
a commodity,
I mean-
and it's online. I don't know. Is this okay to talk about this?
No, of course.
It's happening.
We're
It's in our
uncensored.
culture.
We're
That is very
unbandaged.
That is very interesting.
But how do you
It's in our culture, so we
verify the
have to-
virginity?
we
Does
have
she
to know
come
what's
with a
going on.
gynecological, certification?
You have more questions than I did. I went swipe. Not for me. I'm moving
There's a
on.
lot of guys out there that would be very intrigued by, like, something.
That is-
Why
like-
is it always the men that are more intrigued by women they don't know that they can find online than women who can find men online? Why
Well,
are
that's a
women
whole
more
nother hour
selective?
show, Karen. I mean,
That's an interesting topic.
Because I guess it's something harder to find. It's like finding a rare diamond.
You've
Like-
referred to men and their behavior a couple times. I'm beginning to wonder what's going on
I
over
do
here.
have a theory about that. I believe when you go into a bar 20 years ago, there were a lot of beautiful women in the bar. Now they're not there because they're at home on Match.com or Bumble or something like that, and they can meet people and they don't have to go into a bar. So you go into these bars today, and they're mostly guys. I mean, especially if you go to a place like El Camino or something like that. It's a sausage fest. It's all guys. If a girl goes in there, it's probably, a good environment, but there's really not that many guys. I mean, girls. Yeah, I agree with you. Anyway, it's just unbelievable that our time is up. We thank
wow.
Dr. Karen Corcoran Walsh for coming
We
in.
appreciate you coming out.
I mean,
Thank
this
you.
was
It's
a
been
great
fun. I hope I
subject.
come back.
No.
Yeah, well, let's talk about men and women.
No,
and the difference.
no, there's a whole nother
How we
subject.
approach
She
each other.
treats ED, and
Wow.
it's just not a black and white issue. It's an anxiety issue. It's a health issue.
It's a frame of mind often. It's part of our culture, so it's okay to talk about it.
Is it
porn.
okay to talk about
Yeah.
it?
Absolutely. I don't even like the word dysfunction. I don't like that second part
Yeah.
of
How
it. I
has
think
porn
it's...
changed that with ED? I bet you that has.
Oh, well, that is another show now.
No,
You're
but
talking about mail order
No, but
brides
why
and
would
porn.
porn change? But porn's been around. Playboy magazine.
No, it hasn't been
30.
around the internet. It has now. You got kids that are 15 years old, 16 years old. It has to change, like their behaviors. Even men, men
Okay,
that
so
are
seriously, on a serious note, on that topic, for people who are visual, men and women,
Right.
they are affected by what they see visually. So when you talk about ED and arousal, and it's not a physical issue, then porn it plays into
that can hurt a lot of people. That hurts a lot of
It
people.
hurts as much as it helps. I mean, it's a private thing. I think, like you just
So
said,
we're
Cutty,
definitely
it's been around a long time.
Yeah, we're going to definitely have you back, and
All right.
you know, she's famous, and I think anybody that wants to,
Well,
you know,
you're being very generous. I'm only
No,
famous
how can they
You've been on the
contact-
In this
Dr.
room,
Phil.
I'm famous.
You've been on the Dr. Phil show.
Yeah,
You've
how
been
can they
yeah.
contact you? Where's your...
Oh, well, right now it's
What we'll do is we'll put it in our
Yeah, you'll put it in
descriptions.
here,
We can
yeah.
put it in our descriptions of the show. They can find that
Right.
on. Thanks for the setup. Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or now X, formerly known as Twitter, Apple, YouTube, and TikTok.
Well, thank you.
Karen, Dr. Karen, thank you. Gavi.
How long are we going to have to say formerly known as Twitter? What is the policy? 'Cause
I don't
everybody-
even know. What is it called now?
X.
X. Okay.
Why?
X.
How long do you say formerly known
I guess
as?
until everybody ingratiates and figures out that, you know, Twitter is X. I guess a year, I don't know what the time is, a year or something like that. How long? We're not unbandaged
You
anymore.
just found out what Twitter was, and now I hear you say.
Yeah,
formerly
we're the
known as-
Cutty and Govy show now, right? And everybody like our new logo. There it is.
I love it. I think it
Thank
depicts you. I like the. I like the
Govy,
style.
I mean,
like
his
the
hair looks
backdrop.
amazing in that shot. It looks amazing. Anyway,
The cigar.
I don't know. I think they put that in there. I don't know.
And
You
the
know,
shorts.
We're on the beach. Yeah,
you look
yeah.
like you're
We're in
chilling.
Boca.
Yeah, we're in
Okay,
Boca.
there you go,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a Boca scene.
Boca Boys.
All right, I think we got to go. The next podcast is coming. Thank you, everybody. We love you, and we'll see you next week.